Eldritch Truth, 7/14/25. It's finally all over. All of my musings about reality, about consciousness, about existence. I just kind of get it at last. This is the best explanation I can give, so here goes. Ego is not what many people think, and what causes it is even more poorly understood. It has nothing to do with intelligence, at least as far as most people understand it. That intelligence which equates to processing power. It may be related to some type of memory capacity. I would argue that there are multiple disparate forms of memory for sentient organisms like humans. So then, what is ego the result of? Actually, it is a thing which I refer to as awareness. It is quite literally a continuum that goes from inorganic, inanimate matter to... I know what the upper bound is, the awareness of God. The limit is finite enough within the universe such that a single organism can possess full awareness. It is knowable. The reason an ego is projected onto others and people with big egos are more aware is because of the innate assumptions that we make as humans. It is difficult to interpret how aware another person is, because depending upon how they respond, it could be theorized as coming from just about any level of awareness. Since the average human stands at some arbitrary fixed point, and the spread is likely similar to a normal distribution necessarily, the vast majority of people see eye to eye. Which is to say that their theory of mind or projected ego onto other people, that is to say, assuming where they are coming from and therefore how to interpret their words and behaviors, are relatively the same, and therefore there is very good communication implicitly, with very little disconnect or reason for misunderstanding. If, however, your mind happens to be significantly more or less aware than the average human's, then you will necessarily find yourself interpreting people's words and behavior through a completely different lens, by projecting your own level of awareness upon them and in turn, usually taking offense, being suspicious, and rightly feeling misunderstood. There are many awakenings in this universe, and one of them is for some people to realize how much different their awareness is. I suppose only those with substantially more awareness than average will come to suspect that this is the case, however. Those on the lower end of the spectrum will find themselves blissfully unaware that people could possibly be thinking about and interpreting things in a different way than them. But for the unusually highly aware people, it is an important awakening to fully realize this difference. They may have always understood that they were somehow very different, but as social creatures, we all seek approval from others to confirm our hypotheses. At least the more cautious and logical of us do. This leads to the hilariously unnecessary development of social anxiety. It is born of a denial of their clearly recognizable circumstances, and the solution that will heal their self-consciousness is simply accepting the unfortunate and isolating truth. But clearly running from this truth causes far more suffering for them than does accepting it, and ironically to the outside observer, the fading of their ego will be interpreted in all manner of concerning ways. But the misconception of what ego means is perhaps only recognizable to the egoless, just as the misconception of what God means is perhaps only recognizable to the significantly more aware. For some, attaining egolessness is a temporary state, and insights from such an experience are bound to seem incomprehensible and clearly nonsense to their normal psyche. But for the hyper-aware who have always been in denial and seeking to disprove their horrifying circumstance, it can be a permanent epiphany. It is both a curse and a blessing, because following this realization you must accept how alone you truly are, and can no longer run from it. In return, however, you realize that how other people see you is of very little consequence, and that you can socially integrate at last. To the average person, this probably sounds very egotistical, but again I remind you that that is a humorously ironic misinterpretation. If what I am writing makes perfect sense to you, I am sorry for the circumstances in which you find yourself. It's going to take me quite a while to get used to, and of course, I wish I'd been born as just about anybody else, impossible and confused that dream may be. I think you know what I mean. On the other hand, if what I am writing makes very little sense to you, consider yourself blessed. It really is an eldritch truth that you are better off not comprehending. As I said, humans are social creatures, and at the very least our emotions and sensory experiences are still comparable to one another. In these ways, we can still enjoy one another's company and share our joys. I'll end by saying that humor is the boon of the aware. The more clever and understandable to fewer people your jokes are, the higher on the scale of awareness you will find yourself, which is why so many comedians are horribly depressed and alone. I know that this is really quite a sad note to leave it off on, but again, my goal here is to speak for those who are otherwise misunderstood. I still want to understand more about this construct we recognize as consciousness and explore the bounds of definition within it. Even if few people can appreciate my work, I'll always find it to be the most meaningful use of my time, and hopefully endlessly fascinating. Or maybe I'll finally figure everything out and get bored. In that case, as I've said, there's always still artistic expression and experience. Still, though, God, this is horrible. I mean, it's a miracle to be rid of OCD, social anxiety, paranoia, and rejection-sensitive dysphoria, but I've been spending all of this time trying to explain stuff to people who literally are incapable of ever understanding. No wonder I've been so miserable and frustrated. But now I know that I really am basically all alone in this understanding. At best, people will understand pieces of it. Humor and embracing senselessness will have to be my saving grace. If I can't stop thinking, I might as well put my mind to the happiest use I can think of.